Hey everybody, it's Mr. Isaacs. We're going to do a short ELA lesson. We're not going to do a math lesson today because once again, you should just be working on the math review, and we'll talk about that in the Zoom a little bit more tomorrow, but we're not going to have the test until next week, okay? So we're doing lessons 4 and 5, Unit 7, Week 1, lessons 4 and 5 in Benchmark. Both still using Yankee Doodle Boy. So everybody should turn to lesson 4. I did attach the packets for all of you if you want to read through this as I go through this. Well, my other computer just turned on. Weird. Anyways, okay. Pull this up. So, it says analyze primary sources, diaries. So, a primary source is a fancy way of just saying basically like a primary source means you're getting the information from someone who actually experienced it, right? So if someone writes a diary about what they went through, that's a primary source. Whereas if I wrote about something someone else went through, that wouldn't be a primary source, right? So primary source just means it's actually coming from the person who experienced it. And in this case, it's an actual person experiencing life as a soldier in the Revolutionary War, right? It's their diary. So if you look, there should be this web thing, features of diaries web, and there's 5 points, okay? So these are 5 things that are normally features of a diary. Describes events in sequential order. That just means describes events like in sequences, like this happened, then this happened, right? So that's what that means. Describes events the author experienced. Well, yeah, if someone's writing in a diary, we're probably going to be reading about events that they're experiencing, right? Be kind of a weird diary if they just wrote about things happening to other people. I'm going to be going clockwise, by the way. So then entries are usually dated, often used as informal language. So a lot of times they'll write in a diary, they'll actually write the day of the month and the year of when they're writing their entry. And they usually can use a little bit more slang, not quite as formal. Although in this case, since it is someone writing back in olden times, it still sounds very formal to us. There's no emojis in this, right? Next one, first person, eyewitness point of view. So it's from the first person. They're writing about what they're experiencing. So it's like, I went and saw this, right? And then may contain personal thoughts and feelings. So, of course, if any of you ever have kept a diary or a journal, you talk about your own thoughts and how you're feeling about the events. So instead of just getting a factual, informational thing on an event, if you read a diary about someone going through something, you kind of get, hopefully, how it felt. You can kind of get a better picture of what it was like to be experiencing whatever the event was that they're writing about, right? So all you're going to do for lesson 4 is there's a chart, genre features chart, and you just have to go through Yankee Doodle Boy and find an example from the text that matches each of those things. So find an example that shows how it's describing events the author experienced. Find an example of the entries being dated. Find an example of it being first person. Find an example of there being personal thoughts or feelings, and all the way down, right? So I would say at least one example, but for a few of these, I challenge you to try to find more than one example, okay? And that's basically it for lesson 4. And then lesson 5 is also a pretty quick one. We're still looking at Yankee Doodle Boy. And this one, you're basically just... There's a lot of weird words and phrases, right, in this because it's talking about the war and it's really old. And an example of some of the weird words and phrases, I'll just read off a few that you might not have noticed. Where did I put it? There we go. So there's enlisted, siege, batteries, and this kind of battery is different than like a Duracell battery. Trenches, bayonets, the phrase storm the redoubts, like what, right? And then detachment. Those are some examples of words you guys might not know that are in Yankee Doodle Boy. Now it focuses this lesson focuses on 3 specific words. It focuses on enlisted, siege, and detachment. And it even says what paragraph they're in if you look at the chart. Enlisted is in the introduction. Siege is in paragraphs 3 and 8, and detachment is in paragraph 7. So first, I want you all to look at those words where they are and basically try to figure out what it means by looking at the words around it, right? Use context clues. Then, I'm not asking you to use an actual dictionary because I don't know how many of you actually have dictionaries at home, but just straight up search for the definition online, okay? And that's all you're going to do for that one. So just for enlisted, siege, and detachment. So pretty quick. Just remember today, I'm giving a little math quiz, only 4 questions, and then the social studies test is going to go live as well, and that's open book. And let me know if you have any questions, and I think that's it. So have a good one.